Welcome to this explainer, okay? So if you've spent, literally any time online or in an office recently, you've definitely heard the term generative AI thrown around everywhere. Well, today, we're demystifying it, because it isn't just a buzzword anymore, and it's certainly not just some futuristic concept. It is a real technology that is fundamentally changing how we work, how we create, and how we solve complex problems, right now.
So here is our roadmap for today. 1. What is generative AI? 2. Traditional versus generative AI. 3. How it actually works. 4. The generative AI toolkit. 5. Real-world business applications. And finally, 6. Master AI with Analyst 7.
Section 1. What is generative AI? Moving past the tech buzzwords.
At its essence, generative AI is a specific branch of artificial intelligence. But, and here's the real game changer, instead of relying on rigid, pre-programmed rules just to analyze existing data, it actually produces entirely new, original content. Whether that means drafting a super polite email reply, designing original artwork, or even writing hundreds of lines of Python code from just a simple text prompt, it does exactly what its name implies. It generates.
Moving to Section 2. Traditional versus generative AI. The analyzers versus the creators. Now, for years, traditional AI has essentially functioned as the analyzer, right? It predicts outcomes or categorizes data. Think of it like scanning thousands of banking records just to flag one anomalous fraudulent transaction. Generative AI, on the other hand, is the creator. It steps in to actually write the comprehensive fraud investigation report based on that flag. Traditional AI forecasts next quarter's sales, but generative AI, it writes the actual narrative presentation explaining those sales to your board. It's basically the difference between a system recognizing a cat in a photo and a system painting you a completely unique masterpiece of a cat in space.
Section 3. How generative AI works. No magic, just math.
When you type a prompt in and watch it just draft a comprehensive, highly accurate essay in a matter of seconds, you might honestly find yourself asking this exact question. Is it magic? Because it sure feels like it, doesn't it? It kind of feels like there is a tiny, super intelligent person inside the machine just thinking about your question.
But the reality is much more grounded. And honestly, I think it's even more fascinating. It isn't magic. It is incredibly advanced statistics. When you type a prompt into a tool like ChatGPT, the AI isn't thinking about your question the way you or I would. It doesn't have a consciousness. Instead, it is essentially acting as the world's most powerful autocomplete.
So how does that work? Well, this incredible prediction engine is built in massive stages. First, these systems undergo an intensely rigorous training phase, processing literally billions of examples, everything from classic literature to massive software repositories. During this phase, the model acts like a giant sponge, just soaking up language patterns, complex grammar, and logical reasoning. So when you finally give it a prompt, it isn't thinking. It's relying on all that absorbed data to mathematically predict the most logical sequence of words to follow your text. It simply predicts the next word, and then the next, and the next.
All right, Section 4. The Generative Artificial AI Toolkit. Let's meet the heavy hitters.
Now, the landscape is evolving incredibly fast, but these are the main tools you absolutely need to know. Think of them kind of like specialists. ChatGPT is your go-to for raw text generation, complex coding, and logic puzzles. Need to process text, images, and data all at once? Google Gemini really shines in those multimodal tasks. Or if you're staring down a massive 200-page PDF or a giant dataset, Anthropic's Claude is custom-built to digest and analyze really long documents. And for everyday workplace productivity, Microsoft Copilot brings all these capabilities directly into the Office apps you already use, like Word and Excel.
Which brings us to Section 5, Real-World Business Applications, Powering Modern Workflows.
Let's take a look at data professionals first. For them, generative AI essentially cures blank page syndrome. Instead of spending hours typing out boilerplate code, an analyst can instantly translate a plain English question directly into a complex SQL query. It writes the Python scripts needed to manipulate massive datasets, suggests data cleaning methods, and even generates plain text explanations for the metrics sitting on a dashboard. It completely automates the tedious setup, which allows the human analyst to focus entirely on high-level strategy.
And this absolutely extends to heavily regulated sectors too, like banking and finance. Institutions are now safely deploying AI to handle the administrative heavy lifting. Just imagine turning a dense, 100-page earnings call transcript into a crisp, readable summary in mere seconds. Staff are using AI-powered internal knowledge bases to instantly query really complex, buried company policies. It's accelerating tedious compliance monitoring and drafting routine reports with unmatched speed.
However, for all its power, generative AI definitely has real flaws. Models can suffer from what we call hallucinations, meaning they might confidently invent completely untrue facts or rely on outdated information. Because of this, a human-in-the-loop approach is absolutely mandatory. AI is a brilliant assistant, for sure, but it cannot replace human critical thinking. Every single piece of AI-generated analysis has to be verified by a qualified professional before it influences any real-world decision.
Section 6. Master AI with Analyst 7. The future is yours. You know, people frequently ask if generative AI is going to replace human workers. Well, the answer is that it is highly unlikely to replace most jobs entirely. Instead, it's going to augment human work. The most realistic scenario, and frankly, the one playing out right now, is this. Professionals who know how to use AI will quickly outpace and replace those who refuse to adapt. If you learn how to make the AI handle the repetitive, heavy lifting, you completely free yourself up to focus on high-level decision-making and strategy.
Which leaves us with a pretty critical choice. The tools are here, and workflows are already changing. So will you let this incredible productivity shift just pass you by? Or will you leverage it to take control of your career? You can build the skills that will set you apart today at analyst7.com. The AI revolution isn't waiting. So are you going to be replaced by it, or are you going to lead it?